Googly moogly. Hello out there. We're on the air. It's hockey night tonight. My name is Sean Carrier. Thank you for watching Bet.end. We're here to break down each and every series in the first round of the NHL Playoffs. We're going to start here with the Eastern Conference. We'll give you all of the key stats you need to know, show you where the edges lie, and we'll give you some best bets here for the Eastern Conference first round also. So let's dive right in. The first series, the Montreal Canadiens taking on the New York Rangers. This is a rematch from 2 years ago. If anyone can remember, Chris Kreider running Carey Price, injuring the star goalie, taking him out of the playoffs. So definitely some bad blood here. These two teams very familiar with each other, and this should be a great series. In terms of the regular season series, Montreal won all three games versus New York. And to tell you the truth, since Chris Kreider ran Carey Price 2 years ago in that playoff series, Montreal has put forth their best effort in each and every single game against these New York Rangers. As I said, some bad blood. This Rangers team definitely seems to bring out the best in the Montreal Canadiens of late. And the Rangers, their home record, not what you'd like to see from a team that could be poised to go on a playoff run here. They were only 21-16-0-4 at home this year. If you tack those four overtime losses on to their overall losing record, only 21-20 at home this year. Just about 500. Not a great record. So away teams could be the way to play this series, as the Rangers' away record was actually very, very good, but home record not so hot. So away teams might be the way to play this series. Some things we like to touch on here with the Canadiens. They closed the season very well. Since the coaching change, moving to Claude Julien, they finished the season 16-7-1. And Julien also improved their PK percentage all the way up to just about 82%, moving it up a full percent from their full season average. So Claude Julien takeover has definitely seemed to work for this Montreal team. They close strong, and they definitely seem to be making strides in the right direction. The Rangers, same cannot be said for New York here. In that same span, the Rangers only 11-10-5. So Montreal definitely closed the season much stronger than the Rangers did, and that could be good for them going forward here into the playoffs. We'll look here at the stat graphic. New York with an edge in goals for. Montreal takes it all back there with the goals against edge. Montreal the better face-off team. New York with the edge in the power play percentage, but Montreal the better penalty killing side. And Montreal actually spent more time killing on the penalty kill than New York did. As you see here, this stat is time spent killing penalties. So you want to be the higher number here. You do not want to be the lower number. Montreal seemed to take a little more trips to the box than New York did. So that definitely could work in New York's favor. But I think Montreal just a hotter team here, and this series so close probably comes down to goaltending. And when Carey Price is one of those goaltending options, you can sign me up on that side each and every single time. So I've got the Montreal Canadiens moving through here. Should be a close series, though. I don't fault you either way you're looking at this series. The next series here, I think, does provide a few more betting options. The Ottawa Senators taking on the Boston Bruins. The Bruins will start this series without two key defensemen. Torrey Krug and Carlo will be out for at least the first game. So could send Boston out to a slow start here, especially when considering Ottawa won all four games in the regular season between these two teams. So straight head-to-head dominance there for Ottawa, and the under was also 3-1 in the regular season series here. So Ottawa and the under was the way to play this series in the regular season. I'm not so sure how that's going to work out here in the playoffs. That time on PK stat we were just talking about, Boston, the fourth highest amount of time on the PK this year, but they were also the first-ranked penalty killing unit in the National Hockey League. So they take a lot of penalties, but they kill the majority of those off. And they were also 7th in power play percentage. As you can see here, both of the special team stats lean very heavily towards Boston. Almost 5% edge in power play percentage and closer to 6-7 point edge there in the PK percentage. So that's a stat that's very hard to ignore. These playoff series often so close, and you really have to capitalize on your special teams advantages. And Boston seems like the team that's more poised to do that in this series. They also have quite an advantage here in the faceoff circle, over a 2% edge there. The goals against so similar. I mean, that's basically the exact same number, but then Boston there with a 0.3 edge in goals for. So a lot of these edges lining up for Boston, not a lot of them lining up for Ottawa. Makes me believe that the Boston Bruins is the way to play this series. I will have a bet on the Bruins to win this series. I think that's a pretty good bet, but we'll get to that at the end for the best bets. The next series here, the Toronto Maple Leafs. They're back in the playoffs. They did it behind that strong class of rookies they have over there in Toronto. Quite a finish to the season for the Buds, and I mean quite a season in its entirety for the Washington Capitals. They're most people's pick as the best team in hockey right now, and I can't fault them. They've been firing on all cylinders, and there's been some talk I've been hearing. The Caps are chokers. They've been favorites the last couple of years, and they kind of choked out of the playoffs. I don't think that's a fair assessment of this Capitals team. They've lost to the eventual Eastern Conference champion the last 2 years. Last year to Pittsburgh and the year before that to New York. And those are both great series. It wasn't like they laid down and lost to some wild card team or some team that they absolutely should not have lost to. They played great in those series. I believe they were both 7-game series, or both a long, close series that I don't think it's fair to call this Washington team chokers. And that they've rebounded this year all the way back up to that #1 spot. They seem to be poised to go on quite a run here. But do not sleep on the Buds here. There's some edges. We'll get to the Buds' edges in just a second. But the season series, the Capitals won 3 of the 4 matchups in the regular season. So that should bode well. And Ovechkin here, he really loves playing Toronto. He's got 60 points in 42 games against Toronto this year. And the Caps love to see Toronto this year also. They scored 12 goals in the 4 games against Toronto this year. That's an average of 4 goals a game. You score 4 times in a game, and you're probably going to get it done 8 or 9 out of 10 times there. That is quite a stat. But when we look at the special teams here, just elite special teams for both teams here. They're both a top 10 in penalty killing percentage, and both top 5 in power play percentage. Oh, my apologies. We'll get right back there. Top 5 in the power play percentage. And the Caps spent the 3rd most time in the NHL killing penalties this year. So with both of these deadly power plays, if Washington takes frequent trips to the box, I mean, that could be their undoing here against a strong power play unit for the Toronto Maple Leafs. When we look at the goals for, they're very similar, but Washington with a little bit of an edge there. It's the goals against here where they hold a huge advantage. I believe they're the best in the NHL there in goals against with that 2.16. Braden Holtby over the last 2 years has just been one of the best goalies in hockey. Face-off percentage, we'll call that a draw. I mean, we'll call the power play percentage a draw also. They're both elite power plays. You do not want to be taking penalties against either one of these teams. And the PK percentage there goes to Washington by just about 1.5%. So a slight edge there, albeit, but that time on PK there, Washington just cannot spend that much time in the box. Toronto will make them pay. I would not be laying, I believe you get 27 cents on the dollar if you bet Washington in this series. For me, at that price, it would be the Leafs or nothing. But for me, it'll be nothing. I mean, I can't see Washington going out here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I mean, Toronto, first playoffs in quite some time. They've got the power play and special teams to kind of take an edge there. And as I said, if Washington takes a bunch of penalties, look for the Buds to be in this series. So I won't be pulling the trigger on either side here. But if I had to recommend, I mean, probably Toronto just at the price. It's such a great price for what should be a closer series than what it looks like on paper. Next series here, the Pittsburgh Penguins, your defending Stanley Cup champions, taking on the Columbus Blue Jackets. I love this Columbus team. I bet on them very frequently throughout this regular season, and they were very, very kind to me. This is a great team that should not be overlooked. They have great numbers. I mean, first stat here, both 50-win teams, very, very similar records. So don't be sleeping on Columbus, but I don't know if I'm lining up to bet against the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first round either. The Pens only 6 home losses all year, 31-6, 2-2. That is absolutely as good as it gets in the NHL in terms of home records. That is crazy. And if that kind of holds true and the Pens get off to a 2-0 start to this series, it'd probably be very tough for Columbus to come back. But the season series here between these two teams, 2-2, a season series split, and the home team won all 4 of those games. So as we said in the Rangers-Montreal series, the road team might be the way to go. In this Pens Jacket series, probably want to be betting the home team night in and night out. That would probably work out pretty well for you, especially if we're getting Columbus at plus units at home. I'd definitely love to see what the lines look like. But just on the surface, the home team looks like the play in this series. The Jackets, not a strong close to the season. They won their last game, but in their last 7, finished 1-6 straight up. Definitely the worst stretch of hockey they've had all year long. But you never know if they'll be able to turn it around come playoff time tomorrow. The Pens will be without Chris Kunitz and Chris Letang in this series. So that definitely takes a shot at their depth, and especially on their blue line. Chris Letang, probably their best defenseman, definitely one of their best defensemen. He sees a lot of time on the ice for them when he's available, and they'll be without the services of both of these gentlemen, at least for this series. And Evgeny Malkin also questionable for Game 1. So if all 3 of these guys kind of banged up, you might want to take a look at Columbus. I mean, they're a strong side, but it would definitely just be depending on the price. I mean, I'm not excited to bet against Pittsburgh, as I said, but at 2.5 to 1 or something higher than that, I might have to consider the Columbus Blue Jackets in the first couple games of this series if the Pens' injuries are what they look like they will be. This should be an extremely tight series. Anyone out there that just likes to bet upsets, this might be the one. You probably get a great price on Columbus. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what they pay, but probably closer to 3 to 1. And I think they could get it done. We'll dive into the numbers here. Pittsburgh with quite an edge there in goals for, but Columbus with a significant edge in goals against. Face-off percentage goes to Columbus as well. Pittsburgh with a much better power play percentage there, almost 3%, over 3% edge. And Columbus with a better penalty kill there, about a 3% edge there also. So we call the special teams a wash. This series should be very, very close. Time spent on PK, very similar, but Columbus there gets the edge with less time spent on the PK. So this should be a very, very tight series. I do not like betting Pittsburgh at the price they're laying. If a series bet for me here would be Columbus or nothing, I won't have a series bet in this series. So this is my little bracket here for the Eastern Conference and best bets. I like Montreal to go through Boston, and really, to tell you the truth, whoever wins this series between Montreal and New York, I like to move past Boston or Ottawa. To me, these are the worst 2 teams in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year. I mean, they're not terrible teams. They're quality hockey teams, but I like them the least of these 8 teams in the Eastern Conference. So whoever wins this series, I like them to go through. That's why one of my best bets is Montreal Canadiens to win the conference at 8 to 1. In my opinion, if they can win this series, they're in the conference finals already, and you can probably cash that bet out at quite a profit, if not just let it ride. I mean, they're live against Washington. Carey Price can steal a series against just about anybody. I've seen him do it. The best goalie in hockey. I don't think you get too many arguments about that. And the only series bet I like is the Boston Bruins. They held edges in just about every stat category we looked at, and the special teams, huge edges in the special teams, which is what I think will separate the Bruins from the Senators in that series. So in the Eastern Conference, those are my two best bets. The Boston Bruins to win the series at 58 cents on the dollar. Sorry about that. And the Montreal Canadiens to win the Eastern Conference at 8-1. I think there's some great value there at that number. So we hope this video helps any bets you're thinking of making in the first round of the NHL playoffs. We'll be back with a Western Conference preview also. So keep a lookout for that. And if you're not doing so already, be sure to follow us over on Twitter at Bet_Edge. That's our homepage. All of our picks, videos, and betting tools get posted up there. And it's all absolutely free. So give us a follow over at BetEdge on Twitter. I'll be sure to post a link in the description below. So as we said, we really hope this video helps any selections you're hoping of making in this year's NHL playoffs. As always, thank you for tuning in. Good night and good luck.